Welcome back. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on the murder of 13-year-old Madeline Soto and asking the questions, what's next for her alleged killer, Stephan Sterns, and for her mother? Now, on Wednesday, there was a double hearing on this case, one for Madeline's murder and another for the sex abuse case against Stephan Sterns. He's facing two criminal cases that have been consolidated as one, as they have the same victim. But he waived his right to appear in court. It was just his lawyers there. Now, Sterns claims that he dropped little Madeline off at school back in March, but we know she never showed up at school for her classes. Take a listen to what he told police when Madeline was still missing.
Green hoodie,
green hoodie,
white Crocs.
White Crocs.
Either blue or black pants.
I think black shorts.
Black shorts?
Yeah.
Black shorts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, Sterns is charged with first-degree murder and 60 sex abuse-related charges. Now, the judge ruled that both of these cases will be continued until October 14th, and they will be running together. As I said, these cases have been consolidated, same victim, and perhaps it's all part of the same course of conduct. We have limited information about her death because she is a minor child. I want to discuss this with two great guests now. I want to welcome in an investigative reporter with WFTV TV station in Orlando, Florida. She's been following this case from the beginning. Shannon Butler is with us, and still with me, trial attorney and law professor Dante Mills. Shannon, let me start with you, please. A lot of people wondering about what's going on with mom, with Jennifer Soto, because there's been this cloud of suspicion over her. Curious what, if anything, you've learned in recent weeks in your digging in on this case.
So at this point, we do not believe the target, that focus is on Jen Soto. That is not, of course, what the public here wants to hear. I don't get any more question on this case than I do about what's going to happen with Jennifer Soto. But that doesn't mean that nothing will happen. But right now, it does not appear that their focus is on Jennifer Soto. But what is interesting here is we have gotten some discovery. For those who don't know what that is, that's kind of the documents that police have used to present their case for charges. We have gotten some interviews. And when we requested the interviews, we did receive the interviews from Stephan Sterns, at least the initial interviews. We also asked for that initial interview with Jen Soto, which we have not received yet. So it is possible there is still work to be done to try to figure out how much Jen Soto knew or didn't know, or if she had any involvement here. They have been very, very tight-lipped when it comes to Jen Soto, but all of the investigation that we have done so far does not appear that they are honing in on her, at least at this moment.
Shannon, appreciate that. I have a clip where she and Stephan are explaining the drop-off process that they had for Madeline. And in this clip, they're talking about how she was a bit embarrassed by his car, and that may have explained the distance for the alleged drop that we know never occurred. Let's take a look at it together now.
She got dropped off. She was like, so she's embarrassed by his car. So she didn't want to be dropped off at school. She wanted to be dropped off like half a block away so she can walk.
It's an image thing. She's in the face.
But he dropped her off half a block away and drove away.
Did she ever go to school?
No, we called
She
school.
was walking in that direction. She was rifling through her backpack, just looking for something. I thought maybe she was just looking for headphones before she got to walking on.
Yeah.
But she was just kind of, shambling over in that direction. It looked the same as any other morning.
Okay, so all this information, of course, as you both know, Shannon and Dante, going to become key as the state's continuing to build this case. Shannon, in your work for WFTV, you did an interview with one of them, right? Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so we did an initial interview with both Stephan Sterns and Jennifer Soto in their home. At the time, this was just a missing girl, but there was something that just didn't set right because the original post had said that Stephan had dropped her off at school and she was never seen again. The police had not yet come out to say that there's a missing girl, we need your help, but we went down just in case something occurred that we would need those interviews later. We did do those interviews. You could tell from the beginning of those interviews something just wasn't right with either of those interviews, and there were some things in those interviews as we continued along in the first couple of days even, that those statements by both of them just were not lining up with their own statements day after day after day. And so that's how this started to kind of unravel. And, investigators were onto them from the very beginning. They knew that his statements did not match what they found on his phone. At the time of the interview that we did not have that information on the cell phone just yet. But it was very, very clear that their statements were different along the way.
Right, that interview, I'm sure you could just cut the tension with a knife in that room, Shannon. What a terrible situation this is. And now, after he's put himself out there publicly, so publicly, media interviews, they're caught on tape trying to explain things. Dante Mills, I want to bring you in on the legal aspect here. Do you think his attorneys might be doing a little damage control with him waiving these court appearances so that he's not in front of the cameras as this case progresses?
I do. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, Julie, and I kind of know what pushes your buttons, and this is one of those cases. These allegations are true. It's a predator who sexually assaulted Stephan Soto multiple times. And, there's 60 counts, and then it leads to her disappearance and then the murder, or Madeline Soto, I'm sorry. So what you're talking about here is the mother says the last time she saw her, she sent Madeline to bed with Stephan alone. And that's why there's a cloud around these cases. There's predator situations when they are young people, if it impacts the mother and they're kind of recruited and there's a hold that's over them, that they allow this to happen in their home where they understand or know that sexual abuse is happening and then it escalates, is a very scary situation because our children should be protected. I think his criminal defense attorneys are right to hide him as much as possible, because I don't think there's any love for him right now from anyone based on these allegations, based on how they've been acting, based on the fact pattern that we have here. So I want this trial to move forward. It's now set to go at some point in October, so we can hear all of the evidence, hear what happened to Madeline. We haven't heard about her body and the condition, but there's a lot of questions here that just don't sit right with me and doesn't look good for the defendant.
No, not at all. And quickly, Dante, please want to ask you, do you think we're going to see this result in a plea? We know he's looking at the death penalty. Do you think his attorneys are going to try to work something out?
It really depends what other evidence is out there. So without us knowing how Madeline's body was or things like that, where it will be clear whether or not a conviction is likely. That's the decision that's made when a plea is on the table. How likely are you to be found guilty? And then you decide, should I take the plea for the least possible sentence?
I appreciate it so much. We've got to leave it there for now, but great conversation with you both. Thank you for that. Dante Mills, thank you so much. I've got to let you get off to court. Shannon Butler with WFTV in Orlando, thank you for lending us all this information and insight this morning. We'd love to have you back again on Court TV. Take good care.